Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Cortney Palm. Cortney, how you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Mr. Sledge. How are you?
I am very good. You look very good in that lighting, I must say. A lot less orangey than I anticipated. So uh, the lighting looks very well.
Uh,
Now, Cortney,
I
before
need a good lighting director in here. Like, can someone come in and set deck this and light it for
right.
me,
See,
please?
that's a little behind the scenes stuff you guys didn't see beforehand, but it was a lot of fun. Now, Courtney, before we get into the reason why you're here, I would like the people that don't know you to get to know you here for a second. Courtney has a master's degree in forensic psychology and has been studying to become a shamanic healer since 2018, working with sacred plant medicines like ayahuasca. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
You guys have no idea how many times I was in front of the mirror going, ayahuasca. So that's awesome. It's amazing that you're doing that stuff. And on top of that, working with children. You wrote a children's book about mindfulness and harmonic living, which is available on Amazon. It's called The Adventures of Aya and Friends, The Garden of Patience. But you guys don't have to go searching for that because the links are down here in the description. But before we go any further, because there's a lot about you that I want people to get to know, what got you interested in the shamanic work and being a shaman and stuff like that? Like, what piqued your interest in doing something like that?
Well, I mean, this also piqued my interest in horror as well. Like, I've had a lot of experiences with sort of spiritual entities, as well as I would say, you would kind of say paranormal, right? Something like that, where it's like, are they ghosts? Are they spirits? What are they? And I've had like these energies that have interacted with me before. And my dad grew up in a haunted house. And like, I've always kind of like my brother and I and my dad's side of the family, like we're really intuitive. And like, I could feel people's energies and emotions. I could feel their illnesses. And my brother even had like visitations that he thinks were from aliens. So like, we were just sort of like this strange oddball family, I guess. And I was just like, I need to explore this further. And I was also in society, we're all kind of like crazy sheep and no one's really thinking for themselves. And I just felt like I don't want to be brainwashed anymore. What can I do? So I learned about ayahuasca from a co-star on a film, and it helped his brother heal from PTSD. And he was, military. So he had a lot of trauma. And I was like, I don't really have a lot of trauma, but trauma is relative to your own experience. And I was like, I need to figure this out. So in 2018, I went and I explored ayahuasca, which is a sacred plant medicine in the jungle. And I did 5 ceremonies the first time. I've had a total of 11, but you meet God, you meet aliens, you meet entities, you meet angels, you meet higher dimensional beings. Like, you're in a different frequency. If you've ever done anything like LSD or psilocybin or something like that, you would know what that world is like. And I don't want to advocate that for people who might be like, oh my God, stop. But it is a really powerful modality for remapping your brain and helping you ascend in your higher conscious awareness. And I was always so intrigued by the human condition. That's why I'm an actress. That's why I studied psychology. And it brought me into this path of, okay, now that I can help heal myself and I've seen this huge transformation in myself, how can I then help other people?
Sure.
And yeah, so that's kind of how I got on that path.
That's awesome. And what I love about this is you're even saying, like, this is something for me and I'm willing to help you if this is something you want to learn about, but you're not advocating for these type of things for other people. And I think that's something, like you just said a minute ago, we need to think for ourselves. And the fact that you've gone out and you found something that works for you. And like you said, PTSD, doesn't have to be from war or from God, God forbid, a sexual assault or anything. PTSD can come from many different shapes and sizes. So any type of healing, and you guys don't have to go far to look for that either, because I have all of her social media links in the description. So you can follow her to stay up to date on everything that she has coming up with that as well. Writing too is something that is very special to you. And writing a children's book, I think, is one of the most beautiful things in the world. What gave you the direction, the influence for Aya and Friends Garden of Patience?
Ayahuasca. So the Adventures of Aya, she's actually written after ayahuasca. I was in ceremony one night and I was getting over my ego and my self-esteem issues. And it was all about love and butterflies. And it's just so beautiful. And I was singing to myself and I was coming to this realization that I'm already a perfect whole being, but so is everybody else. And no one really realizes how powerful and beautiful they really are themselves. And how can we step into wholeness? How can we be more mindful every day? And ayahuasca, literally, it's weird because the medicine, the sacred plant medicine, it talks to you. And I was kind of like I don't know, inspired, I guess, to, or told. I don't really know. I feel like I was told, like, this is your directive. You need to write a children's book, like, get it done. And luckily, Little Red's publishing picked me up, and they also publish horror, poetry and horror works as well. So that's how we kind of met, was through the horror world. And then they're like, hey, by the way, we also do children's books. And I was like, listen, I got this children's book. I want it to look psychedelic. I was so on board with everything, and they were really cool. They let me on, like, involved with every step of the process with the illustrations, which was really nice. Not a lot of people do that. So I was like, here, add this, and add a mushroom. And, so it was like, it was really beautiful. But yeah, it was inspired by ayahuasca. The characters in the book are all master plants that you can do a diet with. And these master plants help you in multiple ways. It's basically like a tea. You just drink it and you commune with spirits in a way, in like a very subtle realm, and it invites you to adopt a healthier, more mindful way of being. It's really beautiful.
That's incredible. And like I said, the fact that you found this thing that you're calling and it's so important to you and so special to you, and you're able to share that with other people, and you guys can also hit that link down in the description below as well. I have the link for the book down there. But that's not the only book, because she's currently working on her new book, which is a self-help book, hopefully dropping within the next year. So I know when you're first doing the writing process and the publishing process, things can be a little dicey, but are you hoping that this is dropped by the end of 2023?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I felt kind of like, everyone gets down on themselves, they get hard on themselves, you get imposter syndrome, and you think you're not doing something that's worth anything, and you're like, oh, I'm being a sham. I'm not being real here. I'm making this shit up. And then I was like, I need to do ayahuasca again to just verify this. And I went back to Peru in September, and I was like, my intention was, am I being as truthful as I can be in this book to help people with their journey? And it was sort of like, yes, get it done, finish writing it, and just write from the heart. And so that's what I've been doing. And of course, like, the ego pops back in. It's like, no, you're not good enough. Stop. And then you put it on hold again, but it's almost finished. So I'm really excited. And yes, I'm anticipating like a fall release next year.
Awesome. That's so cool. Congratulations. And
Thank
on
you.
top of all these self-help and children's books and things you're doing in that, you're also an actress on top of that. And, like I said, you're playing all these different cards at one time. And while you're mostly known for indie horror, you have won awards for Best Supporting Actress in the dramatic film Herringbone, which is free on YouTube, which is also in these links down here in the description. So you guys can watch that right now. And you guys probably know her from Sushi Girl and Zombeavers. And that's how me and you actually got connected. What was it like working on Zombeavers?
It was so much fun. Like, honestly, it was the most fun I've had on a film in a while, just because of the puppets and the puppet masters working with the beavers. It was just hysterical. Like, every day was a fun day on set. And even if we were really tired and freezing and covered in blood, and like, we were just like, it's 3 a.m. And we're like, I just remember there's a scene where I am carrying Buck over to the neighbor's house, and we're like hopping along the field. And when they were setting up the shot, we were literally just laying on the grass, covered in our blanket or our coats or blankets or something. And we like passed out in the grass, and we were sleeping, and they're like, okay, you guys ready? We're like, what? And like, we had to like take everything off and get up and start running across the field. And it was like 3:30 in the morning, and we were so tired. And yeah, it was fun though. There was a lot of really good moments on that film.
And you watch that film and you can see, I love indie horror. I love watching, the low budget films like that, because you can see the hard work that goes into something like that, like those passion projects, and you can see the amount of fun you guys are having. Yes, it's a horror comedy. It's one of those, goofy horror movies, but that movie's so much fun. I love Zombeavers, and there's no way that anybody can tell me they watched that movie and didn't have a blast while watching it. So I can only imagine how much fun you guys had on set while making it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, to be honest. And I did one of my own driving stunts, which was really cool. And I wanted to do some of the other ones, but they're too dangerous, like jumping out the window and everything. But my stunt double was really great. So it's like things like that make it exciting as well. Cause like sometimes they do that on B camera and you're not even there, and I got to watch it. So that was That was fun. Swimming was fun. All the cast was hysterical. Like when we weren't rolling cameras, they were all like jokesters, laughing all the time. Hutch would do like the movie voice, and he'd be like, "One man," and it was just I can't even emulate him, but he was hysterical. Like I really had a good time. Like the bloopers that you see, like when we're laughing at the end, like it was nonstop laugh attacks, like all the time, because Peter was just so funny, always cracking jokes, and the writers were really great. Like just really like there was so much integrity with them and so much care. Like I really enjoyed the script and I had a lot of fun doing it. Of course, every movie has their problems, but what people don't understand is when you do indie movies, you're putting so much more heart into it. You really are putting blood, sweat, and tears into it. It's so much harder than these big studio films. And I've been on a lot of big studio films as an extra or a featured extra. Like I've been on Ant-Man, I've been on The Purge Anarchy, I've been on Alice in Wonderland, I've been on Superbad. When you have money, like a lot of money, it's a walk in the park. It really is. And when you're doing these low budget features, like I just don't understand how it would be like you would look at someone and be like, oh, she's just an indie actress. It's like, do you know what I have to go through to fucking act for you? Like,
Right.
respect.
And especially with the pandemic just happening, I would hope that would make people respect indie filmmakers even more, because you guys were still out there kicking ass, making films, and it's hard right now, especially because it's so easy to get lost in all the major streaming services and all these things. But what people don't remember is you guys are still people and you're still working your asses off to create this, this art project that we're all enjoying when we were locked in our houses and couldn't leave. You were what kept us fucking sane. So I have more respect for indie filmmakers than I ever have. And I've been around movies my whole life. I was very blessed to be raised in a video store. My parents owned a video store growing up. So being around film is something that's always been super special and super important to me. And I've always been drawn to how amazing film is and filmmaking and behind the scenes and things like that. The indie filmmakers are so special to me because they're not out. You guys don't get handed $10 million to go make a picture. A lot of times you're crowdfunded. You're funded by people that are so excited to see the vision put to film. So there's definitely a lot of, especially in the horror genre, I feel like there's a lot of love and respect for indie filmmakers and indie film stars, because we know how hard it is for you guys to get your stuff made. And we have this love and respect and admiration for you because of the hard work that you do. Sometimes when you're on an indie film, you're not just an actor. You're an actor, you're helping to hold boom mics, you're helping with sound, and you're loving every second of it. It's always a learning experience. So I just want to say thank you for all the hard work that you guys do. I know that being an indie film is not easy. I know that it can be very, very hard and headaches at times, but it's definitely worth it in the end. So Cortney, I love talking about you and who you are. And we know in the future you have another book coming out. We know right now you have your children's book out, and you guys can check those out by the links in the description. But right now, here for a minute, love, I would like to go back to the past and talk about how horror started for you, your first horror movie. And Cortney, the first horror movie that you watched was?
Well, there was a few, but I can't really remember, but I think it's Poltergeist.
And I think this is such a fantastic first horror movie. We often forget that when Poltergeist came out, the PG-13 rating wasn't available yet. So Poltergeist is a PG horror movie.
Yeah.
And it's one of those movies that is so terrifying for even being a PG horror movie. It keeps you on the edge of your seat the whole time. Do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen Poltergeist?
Yeah, I was like 6 or 7. I might have even been 5, to be honest. Like I was really young. My aunt would come over and babysit, and we were in the basement watching these freaking movies. Killer Clowns from Space, Outer Space, Child's Play, like Pet Cemetery, Children of the Corn. Like those are what I grew up on. I grew up on horror from like a really, really young age, which should not have been happening. But yeah, I think I was around like 6 or 7 for that, which is maybe toxic.
Well, and first off, your aunt, what was your aunt's name?
Nikki.
Nikki, I love you. Thank you for doing God's work.
Thank you for putting horror movies in our face. You're a great babysitter.
Yes, you're one of the good ones, Nikki. But with these movies, like you were talking about how you have your Child's Play, your Killer Clowns from Outer Space, your Children of the Corn. with Poltergeist, especially if you being a 5, 6, 7-year-old young lady, do you think that maybe you identified with this movie a little more because you're watching one of your peers being Carol Ann, Heather O'Rourke's character? Do you think that that hit you a little bit harder because you're watching someone your age going through these
Yes.
things?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So everything was frightening. I had Barbies, I had dolls, I had porcelain dolls, I had a closet. Like all of that scared the crap out of me. And yeah, and even like the little brother, because I had a brother. So it was kind of like we were just always freaking out. And the scariest thing is there's a couple toys that are still like meandering about, like after she gets sucked into the closet and a little boy staring at them. And at one point when my aunt was babysitting us, I had this doll that was like in a little cart and she would like roll around and she'd be like, ah, 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 ah. And anyway, her batteries were out and she was rolling around on the floor. And it had just been like really close to after we saw that movie. And I'm like, I shouldn't have done this. Like this young little baby, I don't even know. Like I said, at that point, I was probably 7 or 8. I was still young because I moved out of that house when I was 9. So I was watching all this shit in that house. I grab a kitchen knife. I'm a young kid. I start stabbing my doll in the head because I'm afraid it's possessed. Like this is my childhood, you guys. And then after we left that house, we moved into a rental house and it was shaped like Amityville Horror's house. And it had like steeples and lofts where we would like have to climb this ladder to sleep in the loft where our beds were. And my brother's bed was over on one side of the house and mine was on the other. And we were both in the lofts. But on his side, there was a tree and it was like right in the window. And I was like, poltergeist tree, that tree is possessed. We are going to die. Like,
That's awesome.
I love that movie so much because of all the special effects, like all the practical effects. Like I'm just so in awe by everything that they did. And there's so many times you see Carol Ann, she's obviously a puppet as well. Like they didn't have her doing half those shots where the toys are moving and everything, but it's just like the magnitude of a Steven Spielberg film. You know what I mean? He always does really great prop work. And that's my favorite thing. That's why I love Zombeavers so much and Death House, because we're working with real props. It's not CGI. Yeah. And like, I love it. I have a theater background as well. So I can get hands on with the film. I dig it. And Poltergeist still stands the test of time even now. Like, Toby did a great job as a director, and obviously it's Spielberg in general. I think he just has his hand in it and he's incredible.
I was just going to say, when you have Toby Hooper, who's probably best known for, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then you have Steven Spielberg, who did horror films like Jaws, Jurassic Park. He had his hand in those movies, and you mix those two together, you're going to get an amazing story with great practical effects. And this movie really went all out with all of that. And I'm such a huge fan of this movie as well. And this movie has a lot of effective scenes in it, especially for children that are watching it for the first time. Do you remember which scene it was, Cortney, that affected you the most?
Yes, the fucking tree scene. The tree scene when the little boy is getting taken by the tree and the little girl gets sucked into the closet. Those two things have scarred me. I was so afraid of closets for so long. I was just like, please, something is in the closet. But now I love trees and I hug them and I love nature. But that scene particularly, it was the tree that like, because that's something you trust, you go outside and you trust trees. So the fact that it's attacking you because it's possessed by some demon monster, it's kind of like Midsummer or The Ring, or not even The Ring, but movies that happen during the daytime. Sometimes like the scares that happen during the daytime, or then Recent Smile where the head comes down in the car and it's daytime. It's just like, that's what's really tripping you up. It's like mirrors too. And you're like, oh my God, I see my reflection in my microphone right here. Like that really sticks with you. And that's when horror is done really, really well. And that's what I loved about Poltergeist. There's so many elements that still stick with you.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those movies that I think, like you said a minute ago, it really has stood the test of time, not just because it has a lot of effective scenery. The acting is phenomenal in it. Obviously, you've got the curse of Poltergeist and all the things that happened on set. And that's a whole story I could get into about why I don't believe any of that. But do you remember which scene it was that was your favorite scene from the OG Poltergeist?
Well, I do want to say that the curse could possibly be a thing. I mean, and it's happened with other movies, but like for me in particular, I just did Beyond Paranormal a couple years ago, and we used a fake Ouija board. It was fake, but we still had it on set. And a lot of shit went down on set, like just negative energies, like my dog passed away. It was really rough. And I really think that when you bring in a negative energy, real or not, imagined or not, you're still putting that thought form into being, and it can bring out some gnarly stuff. And furthermore, when we were filming Death House, we were on a haunted old prison, and our cameras were malfunctioning. Like the camera crew just started to start burning sage everywhere and they had crystals on them because they're like, why is our camera malfunctioning? And some of the actors had like breakdowns. They were like, I got to get out of this room. I got to get some fresh air. And so I kind of see there might be some validity to a dense energy that's around.
I believe in curses. I believe in paranormal. But the thing that bothers me about the poltergeist stuff is like they talk about how the two young actresses passed away after being a part of the film.
Those are actors, yeah.
But, the one was killed by a crazy boyfriend, so don't blame that on a movie. That was a sick individual that had something wrong with him, and he took a young lady's life. And Heather O'Rourke passed away because of a medical misdiagnosis. So I mean, I wouldn't put those on a movie. I believe you. There's so many different things I've seen, like with the Exorcist set.
That one
on fire, and I totally believe in negative energy and curses and things like that. I hate putting two young ladies that died as part of a curse of a movie when they were killed by like I said, one of them was killed by a sick person, and the other by a misdiagnosis from a doctor.
Yeah.
I don't want to give, if there was negative energy or a spirit or anything on the set of Poltergeist, I don't want to give that thing any credit for what happened to these poor young ladies. Like, to me,
I totally agree. And I think that like it does seem totally independent. What happened to them did not reflect any curse from that film. To me, They don't seem the same. They seem just really like unfortunate events.
Exactly.
And I don't. But yeah, The Exorcist, there's definitely way more weird things with that. And with the Scottish play, I guess I can say it. I'm not in the theater, but you know what I'm talking about? The Scottish play by Shakespeare. I'm not in a theater. Screw it. I'm going to say it. Macbeth. There's a lot of curses with Macbeth as well. And I think that this movie was totally independent of that. And may their souls be free. And and I think too, maybe it could be like a marketing scheme against, really uptight people who aren't really fond of movies like that, especially because they're in a lot of households and they might be influencing a lot of people. And so they might be like, it's cursed, it's bad, stay away from it. It's demonic. And, it's the same thing they did with the first Silent Night.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And it's amazing how movies could have that big of an effect on people, that they want to go out and go that far with it. But Poltergeist is a franchise, as we all know. You have the original trilogy and then the remake. Which of the films is your favorite in this franchise?
The OG, the first. I mean, bar none, really bar none. It was so phenomenal. There were so many unique new things that were brought to life, and it's like that whole like era of Gremlins, and it's just like all of that just pieced together. It was just, you can't really top that right now. It's like, it's been done. And then you have to put one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. It's like, no, just strip those away and go back to the basics. I prefer it. That's just me for this particular movie franchise.
I will say that I think that the first one is the best. I honestly do. I think that one was probably the most well made. I'll always have a soft spot for 3, the one in the high rise. There's just something about that movie. I think I watched that one more as a kid. And there's just something about that movie that's super special to me. So Cortney, we talked about
they kind of, I think, learned what worked as well, and then just made it better.
Ran with that one.
Yeah. They take elements that work, and then you get better technology and you get things like that kind of like appeal you more. And like the storyline changes a tiny bit that gets you drawn in a little bit more. But I think the original, to me, it's like the original Amityville Horror as well. Like there's just something about it that's really eerie to me. I also, maybe it's the natural sound effects too, that they're like doing, and like Foley artists are doing in the studio. Like I just get a kick out of those. That's why I love Clue so much, like the old Clue movie.
Oh yeah.
So I get it. I love those kind of movies.
Sure. Well, I mean, we know that, Poltergeist was your first horror movie, and I love talking to you about that. But real quick, I want to throw a little bit of a curveball here for a second. My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you.
Oh.
What's your favorite scary movie, Cortney? What is your favorite horror movie of all time.
Okay, I don't know if this counts as a horror movie, so I'll give you this one. If it doesn't count, I'll give you my other one. But The Descent.
Oh, hell yeah, it's horror. That movie is so, oh my God, it's so underrated. Like that
Yeah.
movie, you can make the argument that the monsters are not even the villains in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, Juno is one of my most hated characters of all time of any movie ever. Oh, that's another movie I could do a whole 2.5 hour tearing apart of that movie and how wonderful that movie is shot, all the
Mhm.
different twists and turns that come along with it, the ideas of friendship and betrayal and love and distrust. And oh my God, yes,
Yeah.
100% a horror movie.
Yeah.
100%.
Good. Yeah, no, that's my favorite. I mean, that is just from just the way they built the set too. Like I'm just in awe with the set. I don't even know. I think it might have been styrofoam and then some real cave. But and when they get in those tight spaces and you feel claustrophobic with them, and then yeah, the story is raw on so much human emotion that it really draws you in and you connect with every single character, even the ones that are like quick to die or they're secondary characters. You really are pulled into all of them. And then like the scene at the very end where you're like, yes, and then you're like, oh shit, no.
Oh,
Like
no.
it's just so good. It's just so good. But you're not left with any like real fear after that movie because you're in your house. Like the ones that really scare you, like The Ring, where now you're afraid of your TV. Like, those ones that really stick with you. Like I said earlier, mirrors, and you don't even want to wash your face because you're reflecting in your handle of your sink. But yeah, Descent is my favorite horror movie, love.
I could run with that. And like I said, an amazing female cast. I think that in an era where we're trying really hard to be inclusive with everybody, that's something horror has done since the beginning of time. It's always been an inclusive genre. I mean, I always tell the story, but you look at Night of the Living Dead in 1968, you had Dwayne Jones, a black guy, saving a white blonde woman in the movie, Judith O'Day. And you have all these people that are questioning George Romero, like, why would you do this? Why would you cast a black man? He's like, I didn't go into this to cast a black man. He came in, he did his audition, and he was the best guy for the job. I didn't care about his skin color. I
Yeah.
cared that he came in and he crushed his audition. And that to me is just something with horror, in a world where we're trying so hard to make sure that everybody's comfortable and everybody is, nobody, we're trying to get rid of all the bullshit. Horror has always done that. And The
Yeah.
Descent is a perfect example of an all-female led movie that just kicks so much ass and is
Yeah.
so scary and is such a good story. So again, I could talk about that movie for hours. But Courtney,
I'm
before I
glad you're
let you
on board
go,
with that.
oh
What?
God, yes, absolutely, I am. Yeah, before I let you go, I want to bounce back to Poltergeist here for a second. And I always ask everybody this question. The credits are about to roll, the curtain's about to drop. But what we're going to do is we're going to rank Poltergeist on a skull count, 0 to 5 skulls. Now,
Okay.
we're not ranking this movie on acting, production, score, nothing like that. What we're doing is strictly ranking Poltergeist on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Courtney, what would your ranking of Poltergeist be?
I mean, considering that I was like 6 or 7 years old, that's a fucking 10.
Yeah.
That affected me so much. I can't even tell you what it looked like outside my brother's room with that tree. Yeah, I don't know. It affected me so much so that I think later, even though as I grew up, I didn't even realize how much I was drawn to horror, how much I loved it so much. I love the practical effects. I love the goosebumps. I love the fear where you're like, shit, someone coming up behind me, and you're like walking up the stairs and you're running because you think someone's there. And it's just like, that was Poltergeist for me. Like everything, like the bathroom, the pool, the tree, the TV, the freaking closet, like the clown. Oh my God, the clown. Like, are you kidding me? And then even bring the clown back in the scary movies. And I love those movies so much. Like, there's just so much to it. It's a 10. It's a 10. It's 10
Yeah.
skulls. And there's so many
It's
skulls in that movie to begin with.
yes. When you get to that swimming pool scene and you have
Oh
all
my
those
God.
skeletons coming up, like what an amazing, amazing cinematic scene. So
Yeah, it really
uh,
is.
I do want to say, Courtney, thank you again so much for doing this. And for you guys watching, don't forget all the social media links and the Amazon and YouTube link for her movie are all down in the description. So make sure you're following her. Make sure you check the book and the film out. Courtney, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror. Stay what you are. and we'll see you guys soon.